and welcome to the Budget Creation and Planning webinar. My name is Javier Tatay and I'm Knowledge Manager at AIESEC Global Finance Board. Here we can see the index and learning objectives of this webinar. First of all, starting with the index, we are going to know what is budget, why we need it, budget versus cash flow, the criteria, some advices, principles of budgeting, planning process, the timeline of the year. We are going to build our budget step by step. We are going to have some tools for analysis and tracking, and at the end we will know a bit more about the Global Finance Board template. Regarding the learning objectives are the definition, the purpose, the basic rules, and the planning process of the budget. As all of you know, the budget and forecasting is the finance standard number 4 inside the finance standard of the Global Finance Board. So let's go for it. First of all, I would like to start with a question. What is a budget? The budget is an estimation of the revenue and expenses over a specific future period of time and is compiled and reevaluated on a periodic basis. It's essentially a business plan for the short term, and it's likely to be expressed mainly in financial terms. Most of the managers see this activity as one of the most important in which they get involved. We shall consider the purpose of budget and how they fit into the decision-making and planning process. Usually, the budget is built with Excel. Remember that you can check the general overview of a budget in the Global Finance Board YouTube channel. The next question that I would like to ask is, why is important? Which is the purpose? Budgeting makes sure that we can sustainably achieve our plans and keep us accountable. Wherever is the goal of the LC or entity, AIESECers must have clear their minds what the future direction of the LC or entity is going to be. The budget sets targets for all levels of the LC and entity, and inside it can be divided into more small monthly budgets. It also helps to coordinate the activities of the organization by compelling managers to examine relationships between their own operation and those of other departments, those things that we call usually synergies. In summary, there are 6 points that are why it's important: to control resources, to communicate plans to various responsibility-centered managers, to motivate managers to achieve budget goals, to evaluate the performance of managers, in our case can be the VPs or the team leaders, and to provide visibility into the company's performance, in our cases LCs or entities, and for accountability. Mainly because without a budget, you are like a pilot in the dark. Regarding the benefits of the budget, there are 5 main benefits: promote forward thinking and identification of short-term problems, help to coordinate the various sections of the business, provide a system of authorization, provide a basis for a system of control, and motivate managers to a better performance. Right now, I would like to explain which are the main difference between the budget and the cash flow forecasting. It's important to know both and how to use them effectively. So, it has been explained before what is the utility of a budget. However, a budget is not used to monitor the amount of cash in the bank accounts. That is where the cash flow forecast comes in. A projection details when the actual receipts and payments are likely to occur. The cash flow forecast reflects the actual income and expenditure from the bank account. So the main difference between a budget and a cash flow forecast is based on the type of transactions and the timing when receipts and payment will occur. For example, a budget will record the income when you have sent out the invoice, whereas your cash flow forecast will trace it when you actually receive the amount in your bank account. To put it into a real situation, let's say that you send an invoice on October to the TN and they pay in November. So in your budget you will put this amount of money in October, but in your cash flow forecast it will be in November. That's why the cash flow forecasting should be divided in 3 sections. Openings, which can be the amount of money that there is in the bank account at the beginning of this period. It can be a month or a week or even a day. Operations, well, obviously all the operations occur. And closing, which is the amount of money that remains in the bank account at the end of the determined period, both for expenses and income. I would like to continue with saying the 5 points that are the budget criteria. It must be consistent with the plan of ELSI and showing the focus of the ELSI or entity. It must be completeness. It must ensure sustainability of the ELSI or the entity and solvency, and must be transparent for all members. Moving on, I would like to say some budget advices from the Global Finance Board. First of all, be conservative, not optimistic. Be always very cautious about optimistic forecast. Try to build your budget underestimating your income and overestimating your expenses. There will be always unexpected events. Use the data from past years to support your budget. As more complex becomes your finance network, you can also start building an optimistic, realistic, and pessimistic budgets. Teamwork and consultation. The budget is not only the work of the MCBP Finance or LCBP Finance. The budget is built thanks to the cooperation of those individuals who have the best chance of knowing what expenditure is likely to be needed and what income is reasonable to expect. Third one, don't hurry up. Budgeting is not an activity that is completed in a few hours. For this reason, budgeting is often referred to as an iterative process. The budgeting process is lengthy because much research and consultation has to be carried out before people involved in the process can be confident of the figures they supply. Finally, excellence in documentation. It's always very important that the authors of the budget strive to produce documents that can be read and understood by anyone. So, in order to avoid some misunderstandings that can occur during the monitor and tracking of the budget. Continuing with the budget principles, there are three main principles. Precautionary principle, as it has been said before, always only overestimate the cost and only underestimate the revenues. And remember to count with reserves 10% of the cost for some specific items such as the branch, the team, for conferences or for MC. Accrual principle. Always put cost and revenues to the period, in our case is mainly the month, when they were created, because when you receive it or issue an invoice. How to ensure that our costs are not underestimated? Use accrual accounts in accounting. An example, if I invoice at the end that will pay next month, but now I should put this money in the accounting, rather in the period of which the cash flow related to them occur. This has been already explained before. And finally, but last but not least, matching principle. Always report an expense on its income statement in the same period as the related revenue. For example, if the expenses of the program Outgoing Global Talent are going to occur in July, also the revenues will occur mainly in July. So remember to put them in the same period. Continuing with the checklist, there are 6 main points that are in our checklist. First, to create at least one budget each year with monthly structure. The structure of cost and revenues must be aligned with AIESEC International Profit and Loss Statement. The budget must be approved by the board of LC or MC before the beginning of the term. The real budget is updated at least every month, because if not, it makes pointless to have a budget and to build it. LC's and MC's budget are planned in profit. In AIESEC, we must be able to be a youth movement that can grow from 5 to 500, and also the budget must serve as a tool for going for it. And events with a turnover of plus of 50% of the budget have a separate one. For example, conferences, youth speak, etc. Remember that you can use the Global Finance Board template for your budget. You can check it here and in the financial wiki. Later on, at the end of this webinar, we will go through the Global Finance Board template briefly. Moving on, we are going to talk about the budget planning and the timeline of the year. First, we will start on the blue arrow in set goals, because you need to know how the budget should look like. Then you are going to collect data and analyze it. You need to set the data that come from the past years. Next, you need to meet your BPs and LCP and plan their budget. Continuing, you need the budget itself, and then the last steps are to implement it, to present the budget to the EB, to the members, to the AIESEC plenary, whoever must need to see it, to find solutions for the main bottlenecks, etc. And at the end, at the monitor plan, you should track the budget and monitor and report them the financial situation, if it is possible, quarterly, weekly, even it can be directly if your finance network allows it. The timeline of the year, that hasn't too much mystery. Remember to look back at the end of each quarter always to analyze how it has been. Remember that at the last part of the webinar we will see also some tools so that we can use to analyze our budget. Arriving at this point, the next slides are going to be regarding how to build your budget step by step, now in real terms. First of all, take your time to watch the codification system of the Global Finance Board. Remember that you can see the video in the Global Finance Board YouTube channel. Moving on, first, in creating a budget for the next year, your first step is to have a look at last year's financial statements, the balance sheet and the income profit statement and budget, if they exist. Because unless there is a change in the number of people or location or type of businesses, for example, let's say that you are going to run a new project like Incoming Global Volunteer or whatever, the overheads of the LCR entity for last year will be a good indicator of next year's overheads. LC plans and budgets are inseparable, or LCs and entities should develop a business plan. The purpose of developing a business plan is to set the goals and objectives of the LC entity, which is the strategic plan, and to determine what work must be done and by whom to achieve these objectives, which is the operational plan. Remember that although historical data helps to predict income and expenditure for next year, the planning may contain new strategies that will radically change the pattern of income and expenditure. Let's say that your LC or your entity has changed the focus from one program that can be Incoming Global Talent for Outgoing Global Volunteer. So this can change the pattern of the income. Once you have reviewed past year information and checked the business plan, it's time to start to building your budget, now in real terms. You are going to need a software program that works with spreadsheets, such as Excel or Calc. Your budget will be divided in various spreadsheets, the summary, income, expenses, and you can also add graphs, etc. At the rows, you should put the accounts. Remember to put the general accounts and sub-accounts. So let's say, for example, that you're running 3 projects in Incoming Global Volunteer. So the main account will be Incoming Global Volunteer, and you will have Incoming Global Volunteer Project 1, Project 2, Project 3. The columns are reserved to be divided among the different months and quarters. Moreover, it's really useful to add 3 columns in each month, with the past year, the budget, and the actual, because in this way you can have a really easy track on your budget. Don't forget to add specific cells to put the total amount of income, expenses, etc. As the budget will contain a lot of information, you must link all the cells that contain the same information in order to not to make errors. So, for example, the total income of Outgoing Global Volunteer in the income spreadsheet must be linked with the cell of income Outgoing Global Volunteer in the summary spreadsheet. and same for the data at the graphs. Indicators such as the variance, the cash flow summary, etc. are always welcome. Consider to introduce them in your budget. The ninth step is to ask for feedback to your previous VP Finance or MCVP Finance. And in case you have doubts, talk to others MCVPs or LCVPs. Remember that sharing is caring, and the whole network will be glad to help you to build your own budget. As it has been said before, we are going now to see some tools that we can use to analyze our budget. Again, I would like to remember you that once you have built your budget, remember to keep it updated every month, because if not, it's pointless to make an effort building the budget. To analyze the budget, we will use the break-even analysis and the variance analysis. The break-even analysis helps us to identify at which point our cost will be entirely covered by the income. It can be used to know how many exchanges we will need to cover our cost. So the formula will be fixed cost divided price minus variable cost. For this, it's necessary to specify which income will cover which cost. For example, the cost of the Facebook webpage or all marketing costs will be covered with outgoing global talent operations. So the fixed cost will be the cost of maintaining the Facebook webpage, advertisements, and so on, divided the price, in this case the outgoing global talent fee, minus the variable cost, if there are some costs that are, as the name says, variable. The variance analysis. The purpose is to identify differences between the planned financial outcomes, which is the budget, and the actual financial outcomes, which is the actual. The difference between budget and actual is called the variance. The variance is depicted below in the currency and percent terms. The formula that we will use is actual minus budget divided by budget multiplied percent. So the result will be in percent. So let's say that for the program Incoming Global Talent, you budget to have an income of 250 euros and the actual is 500. So it will be actual 500 minus budget 250 euros divided by budget, which is 250 multiplied percent. In this case, the math will give that we have a 200%, so we covered actually the double of what we set in the budget. Entering into the last part of this webinar, we are going to talk now on how to use the template and why we need it, and we are going to see briefly how it looks like the Global Finance Board template. But first of all, why to use a template? Creating new documents all the time can waste valuable time and money. Instead, focus on original internal templates that can be utilized for a variety of projects, including enterprise communications as well as customer projects. These resources will allow your LC or entity to keep your brand consistent while also maintaining creativity. So in summary, some of the advantages are: templates increase speed. Instead of developing new documents, you can have a document that can serve for many projects. Reduction errors is a plus because have you ever sent a document only to realize that certain aspects were missing? Templates fix those mistakes by enforcing a consistent rundown of points to include. This led us to the last point: consistency and consistencies. Documents can differ how points are presented, leaving every employee, in our case, members, LCVPs, LCPs, MCVPs, MCPs, to individually decide on the display of critical information. Templates allow for a constant form, which makes it easier for everyone to locate important aspects of the correspondence quickly. Remember that you can check the Global Finance Board template inside our Financial and Legal Wiki in AIESEC.easy Financial and Legal Wiki. Moving on, in the last slides, we are going to have we have in our screen a little overview of the Global Finance Board template. The template has two main parts, which are the revenues and the cost, and three main columns: The accounting code, which is the same for everyone. Each 100 represents a part in the template, which is the first column. Global Finance Board code for MC, which is only for MCs. It's the second column. So in the first row, it will be 1160 RMC. And the Global Finance Board code for LCs, which is only for LCs, and it's the third column. In this case, the first row will be 4260 RLC. Wait a minute, I don't understand the code. No problem, you can check in this YouTube channel the explanation of the codification of the Global Finance Board template. Finally, I would like to explain briefly which are the main parts inside the revenues and cost. As you can see, the revenues is divided into 6 parts, with income from membership fees, income from partners, income from students for exchange programs, funds and donations, project income, youth speak, incoming global volunteer, national conference, etc. And the 6th part is for other income. Regarding the cost, you have human resources cost, office and flat cost. This will be mainly for MCs, conferences and meetings, operational cost, and other expenses will be mainly taxes. We are arriving to the end of this webinar, and I would like to let you a final message. The budget is not just a collection of numbers, but an expression of our values and aspirations. So remember that every time that you are tracking your budget and the goals are not achieved, remember that this is not just numbers. We are not talking to just to fulfill some numbers like let's make 15 exchanges. We are talking about 15 people that can make a true impact in their societies. So remember, it's not just a collection of numbers, it's an expression of our values and aspirations. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. Remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can like us on Facebook. You can send love letters to our email gfb@i.iesec.org. And last but not least, actually probably the most important part, you can check our wiki in www.ies.ec functional, finance and legal. Again, thank you very much for your attention. I hope that it was useful and see you in the next webinars. Have a nice day.